All right, if you're a recruiter, you know the job market is extremely hot and it seems like there's not enough candidates to fill any role. Welcome to Recruiter Feel, sponsored by the Recruitment Education Institute. Our goal at Recruiter Fuel is really threefold. Number one is to address some of the issues we have and turn them into actual opportunities. Number two, determine why those issues come up in the first place so we can avoid them. And number three, and this is the clincher, is at least one piece of practical advice that you can take back and apply at your job as a recruiter today. So today I've got a guest with me. Melissa, thank you for joining us for this edition of Recruiter Feel.
You're very welcome. Good to be here.
Here's what we're going to try to do. 9 or 10 minutes tops.
Yep.
5 questions. Practical advice at the end.
Okay.
And then the 5th is kind of the doozy. Okay. But first of all, tell everybody, what's your role? Who do you work for? What do you do?
Sure. I work for Qualigens, and I'm the delivery director here. So I oversee all arms of delivery. So that means research, sourcing, and recruiting. Okay.
So you've been a recruiter yourself, though, for a long time, right?
Yeah.
So what we're talking about today is not just leading teams, but your own experience as a recruiter.
Yep. And still doing it. So,
okay.
Yep.
Question number 2. Why recruiting? What's like the best thing about recruiting?
You know, I get asked this a lot. I think from like people who are just wanting to get into the industry. Yeah. I got into it in a different way, but you know, for me, it's become more about, as cheesy as it is, placing the right people in the right roles, and you can have a huge impact on somebody's life in some positive way. It could be monetary, it could be skill set wise, it could be a change of location. Yeah. It's really cool when you're able to do that, because I don't think a lot of professions, sometimes you don't get that opportunity to do that. And it's great that we can.
Biggest decisions people make in their lives: school they go to, person they marry, kids or no kids, job they end up with. Yeah. And you get to have a piece in that.
Yeah. And sometimes it's a career change, you know,
and
giving somebody that opportunity. And the best reward is when a candidate comes back and said, "You've changed my life," or "You have allowed me to do this, and I never thought I could do that."
Okay, so now we talked about some of the positives of it, but I've been talking to leaders, and you've been talking to folks, I'm sure, that are saying, look, things are just way too crazy from a job market perspective right now. I've been talking to leaders that have had positions open since before COVID and aren't even close to filling those jobs now. Whether they're using agencies, whether they're doing it internally, it doesn't really matter. What are your thoughts about everything that's going on generally from the job market perspective right now?
Yeah, well, it's a candidate market, right? We all know that. So as a recruiter, you have to stay educated on the market, because it changes, and it'll change at some point again, where it's going to become an employer market, and understanding what that means and really educating yourself on, this is happening all over the place. Yeah. So what do I need to do differently to stand out from the pack, or, you know, still be able to provide quality candidates to my client? Because you can't do the same thing we did 6 months ago, 8 months ago, with where the market's at right now, because candidates have a lot more opportunities that are knocking at their door.
So when you talk about getting to know the market, aside from the fact that, okay, there's just a crap load of jobs and not enough candidates, what are the other things that you look at when you refer to getting to know the market?
You have to know, first of all, the company, your client. You need to know that. As much as you think you might know, you really need to dig into what are they looking to do for the rest of the year, because that could help you get candidates. It could be very attractive.
I was gonna say, wait a minute, I'm just trying to fill a job. Whether I'm internal or external, I'm just trying to fill a job. You're talking about getting to know what the company is going to do. Why the hell do I care?
Yeah, you should care, because the more you know arms you with more to give the candidate, because once you start understanding the candidate's drivers, you can connect those with what the client's looking for, what the company's trying to do. So if you don't know the company that you're working with to try to fill that, or to try to fill that position, what's going to stand out when you contact a candidate?
So where do you go for market knowledge from that perspective, whether it's specific to a role or just in general? Because a lot of the people that are watching are probably relatively new. And again, we're using the terms, go find out what's going on in the market. We know it's a crappy market for recruiters in terms of all these jobs, but what else? Where else do you go to find information about what's happening in the market?
The great thing is there's no excuse not to now, right? Because we can literally get on our smartphones and go to different websites. Like I look at, news periodicals and industry magazines and things like that you should really know what you're recruiting for and what that looks like. What is the trend going to maybe be? Because a lot of these magazines, that's their job, economic magazines, is to tell you this is what might happen in 3 to 6 months. So knowing, is always better, because as you start talking to the candidates too, they're in that industry. So you have something else that you're now bringing to the table to show them, hey, I do care. I'm educated on what's going on in your industry right now. Let's talk about it. Because that could be a motivator for that candidate.
Yeah, no question about it. So along the same lines, but let's switch gears and go to question number 4.
Okay.
And this show is all about practical advice. And you had a couple of nuggets in there for understanding what's going on, understanding the industry, knowing about the company. But if you were giving, whether it's a new recruiter or an experienced, a seasoned recruiter, given where the market is right now, and we all know it's a tough market to try to recruit people. What's 1 or 2 pieces of advice that you'd give to a recruiter to say, this is going to help set you apart, this is going to help you get the candidates your organization or your client needs?
Yeah.
What would you say right now?
Besides doing your research, that's got to be number 1.
Yeah.
Understand what you're going into
before
understanding the company, understanding the industry.
Okay.
Really know before you start the outreach, basically. And also your messaging. Right? So as recruiters, it's easy a lot of times to just do, I have 100 people I have to reach out to. I'm going to do the standard messaging. I'm going to see if this works or not. You really have to get specific. Like, look at the candidate's profile. Pick something out in their LinkedIn that says, maybe you went to the same college, or you have the same certification, or something that you can address that candidate to make it more personable. Because you're not the only recruiter that's reaching out.
No, there's 6,000 recruiters
Correct.
reaching out to every candidate on LinkedIn or anywhere else right now, and that's what's the differentiator. I mean, I get constant reaches out, not really a word, but connections by recruiters that are trying to sell me on a job. They didn't even look at my profile to see what I do in the first place.
Right.
You're probably getting the exact same thing. How do you stand out from the crowd?
Yeah, exactly. By taking the time to pick something out that you can relate with that person, even if they're to say no, right? They're still taking the time to respond back to you because you took the time to really stand out and try to get a solid message that incorporates something that they've done or will be doing.
I love it when you get the messages, and I'm sure some of you are using this, that you're sending this broadcast out. Your profile looks extremely great. You're a perfect fit for this job as a recruiter, which I get often.
Yeah.
Right. I still recruit today, but that's not my only job at this point. And you can tell it's just they've spanned everybody with the same damn message.
I can't stand that either, by the way, because I always say to newer recruiters, I'll be like, well, how do you know they're a perfect fit? You haven't talked to them.
Perfect fit for what?
Right.
They don't know anything about the job. You haven't talked to them. You don't know.
Right.
They might be a perfect fit skill-wise, but they don't fit the manager at all, and they think the manager's going to be a jerk when they're just not aligned with that manager.
Yeah, exactly. And I think going back to the basics, so not only making the message very specific to that person, right, and customizing it, know your audience, right? That's the simplest form of when you're messaging people of, salespeople might have a little different, how you should approach them versus somebody maybe in accounting or finance or engineering that wants to see, very specific details versus a salesperson. Money is their driver most of the time. Generally speaking.
Yeah.
So really kind of understanding how to craft that message as well to that person's industry and not just blanket,
And that's just not the messaging going out. That's the messaging of your job description and everything. The last couple of sessions we did under Recruiter Fuel, I talked about some of Marketing 101 for recruiting. Yeah. But I went on Indeed and LinkedIn this morning to look at job descriptions, and they're almost all structured the same way. Company description, job summary, job description, duties and responsibilities, required qualifications. Who's interested in that given the market that it is right now? How does that excite somebody, or does it?
Yeah. No, it wouldn't excite. Nobody wants to read a long form that doesn't give the color and the stuff that you don't include, like the benefits, the work culture, like the things that, you know, most candidates will start asking when you're talking to them.
Sure.
So again, that all goes back to understanding your client, the company. How great is it when you can talk to a candidate about, listen, this company in 6 months, this is where they want to be. You could be a part of that. You said you wanted to do X, Y, Z, and relating it back to say, this is amazing because this company wants to do this, or here's some challenges, but I think you could really help this company get beyond that.
So you said, do your research up front, know the organization a little bit better, know your audience, tailor your messaging to your audience, know enough about that role so you can hit the hot buttons and understand the drivers of that particular candidate so that you are standing out from the crowd.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the big question, number 5. You've been in this a long time. We love to get different perspectives on this show of people that you respect, that can share a different context or confirm a different context. So who would you recommend that should come on Recruiter Fuel and share what they know about recruiting for the audience that's watching?
Yeah, my friend Kara Smith, she was actually my former manager. She works for a local company here in Livonia, United Road, and she is basically runs a recruiting department and in the same boat. And we bounce ideas off of each other all the time about what we're seeing right now in the market and the struggles that we're having and how are we working through it. So I use her a lot for ideas and vice versa.
So Kara Smith, you heard it from your friend Melissa. We're coming for you. We want you on the show to get your perspective. Melissa, thank you for taking the time. There's a couple of good nuggets there, and we want to try to keep this short. If you're watching this right now, click the button on your screen to sign up to get notified of all future sessions of Recruiter Fuel. And if you've got an idea, if you've got an issue, if you've got something that you want to bring to the show, please reach out to us. We'll have you on the show, or we'll get an expert like Melissa to share their knowledge about your specific question. The whole idea behind Recruiter Fuel is to be a community of recruiters supporting recruiters. And again, Melissa, thank you for that time.
Always a pleasure.
Always. We'll see you guys next time.